So welcome. So today the topic is quantum trust and surrender, learning to flow when life feels uncertain. Um, this is a very relevant topic for me right now because my life is very uncertain in many different areas. So I am really experiencing firsthand the idea of trusting and surrendering when everything outside of me feels so volatile, so ungrounded, so uncertain. And that creates a lot of unsafety in my body, in my nervous system. So it's really interesting that today's topic is it's so felt for me right now. Hi Marina, hello beautiful souls. I am here because I feel free fall. You are feeling free fall. Uh, that's a nice expression. So you are really flowing down. Is that a good thing? Flowing is it's good sometimes. But free falling, I don't know if that's a positive or a negative kind of approach from your side. So why I would like to open the session with the idea of why does uncertainty feel so hard, so difficult, right? Why is uncertainty, not knowing what's going to happen, why is it so difficult to trust and to surrender to the process when things are uncertain, when it's unknown, when it's you don't know what's going to happen, right? So that's the first kind of opening question that feel free to share in the chat, what's coming up for you. So I am isolated right now and don't feel an anchor. Yeah, I hear you. I feel the same way. I feel isolated right now. We are in a house in a beautiful forest, but there is a part of me that feels isolated, kind of removed from the world. There is loneliness there, and I think everything gets amplified, right? When you are alone, when you are isolated, when you like feeling isolated is a mirror, right? Because I am feeling isolated from myself. So of course, if I feel isolated from myself and I feel disconnected from myself right now, and I don't have clarity about even who I am anymore, or where am I gonna live, or what am I gonna be doing, it's very difficult to. For me, it's very difficult to don't feel the same way outside, right? So it's kind of a reflection of what's inside, what's outside reflects what's inside, and vice versa. Yeah, uncertainty is like falling off the cliff, free falling. Yeah, exactly. That is a good feeling, right? That's a good explanation. Like it feels that you are falling, and the act of falling feels scared, makes your nervous system contract because you don't know where you are going to land. You don't know if there is anything there catching you. You don't know what's gonna happen, and it's interesting because our mind has the tendency, at least my mind has the tendency to go into the worst case scenario when that happens. I think I've been programmed to always be prepare for the worst, so that anything else it will feel well, it will be easier. And I guess it makes sense, the idea of if you prepare yourself for the worst, then anything that comes that is not the worst is going to be more easily manageable. But when I am preparing myself for the worst, I am focusing my energy in what I don't want. And from a quantum perspective, you don't want to do that because you are going to amplify that. You are going to attract more of that. It's good to know what you don't want so that you can contrast and you can then decide what is it that I want instead. But yeah, there is a tendency, right? Because human beings naturally, they want certainty. They want to be able to predict what's going to happen, because that creates safety. And we want to control, and we want to have routines, and we want to kind of understand what's happening. And I think it's important to have some of that, but it's also important to remember that everything is always changing. We can create temporarily something that is familiar, we can create a temporary routine, but in the grand scheme of things, everything is always changing. And sometimes we need to change, we need to evolve. And I was talking in my last life about identities, right? Shedding old identities and stepping into new roles and new identities that are more, allows us to be more aligned with what we want to do, who we want to be, and then changing that. That is where trusting and surrendering to the process of life is very, very important. Yeah, Emilio, expect the worst and one will never be disappointed. Yeah, that is the theory, but I don't think it's a good approach. I think it's good to be aware of all the options that can happen, but then why would I want to focus my energy and my attention on what I don't want instead of what I want? So yeah, our nervous system normally associates the unknown with danger. And I guess that's a protective mechanism, right? Because all in the days when we were living in caves and we didn't have safety, we didn't have a house, and we were attacked by animals, or we were always kind of hyper alert, right? So we had to develop that, okay, something is happening, I need to protect myself, right? So anything that is unknown, there can be some danger there. But that mentality, we are doing it in every area of our lives now. And I don't think that that is a good approach. So many times, like that need of control is often an attempt to manage the fear that we are experiencing of that change. And that steps on the way of being able to trust and to surrender to the process. So let's talk about trust. And what does trust really mean? What is trusting? And how does that look like, right? So the normal perspective is, in everyday terms, trust often means that we believe that things are going to work out, having faith in a person, having faith in an outcome, relying on something external, and kind of trusting that that is going to work, right? Trust is dependable, Holly says. Yeah, so what does trust mean for you guys? If you have to define trust with a few words, with a sentence, with an adjective, what is it? What's trust for you? What's the meaning of trust for you? And feel free to put it in the comments. And then many people, we struggle, right, with that trust because we have experienced lots of things, right? We have experienced betrayal, we have experienced instability, we have experienced broken experiences, broken expectations, we have had loss. So it's important to recognize that there is the past impacts how we feel and how we move forward. And it's difficult sometimes to trust when you have had a bad experience and your body remembers. Hi, Elena. Welcome. So Isabel says feeling safe, being vulnerable without being taken advantage of. Yes, trust is like a stranger to me now. I find myself feeling. Amazing. Yeah, so and the experience of trusting can look different for each of you and can look different for in every experience, right? In every situation, in every moment to moment. The idea of trust can look different. But yeah, so our nervous system basically learned that if I don't control things, I will get hurt. And that kind of eliminates the trust altogether because I cannot trust because things will not be safe if I don't control. So from a quantum perspective, trust is not something passive, right? Trust is some of the key ideas are the reality is not fixed. As I say, everything is always changing. Even though we create the illusion of stability, the illusion of kind of grounding, the illusion of a temporary kind of routine or something that is we can expect or we can rely on. But in the long term, everything is always changing. So the reality is not fixed. It is dynamic and responsive. It's always dynamic. It's always moving, changing, evolving, and it's responsive, right? That's why trust also is responsive. It's something that keeps happening, and it changes what kind of it means and it looks like in every moment. Your energy, your attention, your choices influence the outcomes, absolutely, right? And when you grip tightly on an outcome, you are collapsing possibilities into something that becomes real. That's why when you are placing your attention and your energy into something concrete, most likely you are going to attract more of the same, right? So control narrows the reality, and trust keeps possibilities open. So basically, a sentence that we could say is control tries to force one timeline. So from a quantum perspective, everything is infinite. There are infinite amounts of possibilities and timelines and parallel realities. So if you are trying to control, you are trying to force just one timeline to happen, but trust allows multiple possibilities to emerge. So anything else that you guys want to add to the idea of trusting? Anything else that's coming up for you about trust? And how to nurture trust, or maybe how to feel safe when your body doesn't feel safe. But there is nothing really happening that is making things unsafe. Sometimes I feel unsafe and I notice racing thoughts of worst case scenarios normally that they are not happening, and they are very unlikely to happen. It's one possibility of infinite amounts of possibilities. But then I notice how that impacts me, and I notice how that makes me don't trust because I'm feeling a lot of fear. And then many times when we are trying to trust, many times stuff bubbles up, and it can become an opportunity to heal things in you. In my case right now, I notice that this is an opportunity for me to allow these things to come up and to start questioning them, to start really challenging them. It's like, why am I always looking at the worst case scenario? Why does this situation feel unsafe? Why am I thinking about what can go wrong? And I'm not even considering what can go really well. So it's very narrow, it's very extreme, it's very fear-based, and it feels heavy in me. It feels like dark, heavy, something that is very difficult to digest, right? But I don't want to negate that because it is coming up. So maybe this is not even mine. Maybe this is generational. Maybe this is my parents' belief, my grandparents' belief, what they went through. They went through war. They went through being very hungry and starving. They went through having nothing. So there were a lot of experiences that had an impact on them, and that shaped how they see reality, and that has shaped, for example, who I am as a person and what I believe, and how I function and how I look at trust when things are unknown and unfamiliar. So Hali says, I trust myself to land on my feet after chaos. Yeah, that's beautiful. And that is a beautiful way to trust, right? Trust that no matter what happens, you will find a way to land on your feet. You will find a way out. You will be able to manage. You will be able to do your best to get out of that situation and to grow. So that's really nice. So let's look now at surrender, right? Because we trust and surrender. We talk about the trust piece. Now let's talk about the surrender piece and what really surrender. What is that? So many times people misunderstand surrendering to giving up, to being passive, to letting life happen to them. And that is not really surrendering. That is just checking out of life, pretty much. But surrendering, what it's actually surrendering is releasing the illusion that we can control everything. So when we are on a fear state, when I am there, I try to control everything with my logic mind, and I try to do what I know to try and make everything work and try to create the safety that I am craving and I need. But that is an illusion, because I cannot control everything. I cannot make everything happen in the way that I want all the time. And many times that is not what is gonna serve me best either. That's why trusting that that things are happening for me, trusting that I am learning through this process, trusting that I will do my best every moment and things will work out, and then surrendering to that process of it's out of my hands. I am still showing up, I'm still doing things, but I am not controlling. So basically, surrendering is being present, okay? Being present in the present moment, listening to intuition, allowing yourself to connect with your intuition, and you're gonna use that as a guidance every moment, and then responding instead of forcing. So you start responding to life, responding to the experiences, responding to what's happening moment to moment to moment. And then if you mix trust with surrender, that is when you can start getting in the flow. And we're going to talk about the flow, right? What that is. And so Hallie says, surrender is accepting what is actually coming my way, regardless of source. Yeah. So surrendering and trusting, right? So you are accepting what's happening. You understand that, and you are trusting that what's happening is happening for a reason. And then you start looking for the opportunity of growth, the opportunity of expanding your consciousness, expanding yourself as a person, challenging yourself through this experience to understand, why is this happening? What do I need to learn from this? And how is this going to help me in my journey? So you are not forcing anything, but you are responding and you are adjusting and you are still taking action, inspired action, not fear-based action. It's very different, right? So many times when we are feeling unsafe, we enter the control loop. It's a loop that happens, and I am finding myself in these last couple of days in that loop a lot. That is basically, I'm feeling uncertainty, and then I step into anxiety because I have the need to make myself feel safe in any way. And because I don't find a way, I start feeling anxiety and fear. And then that creates the need for me to control. And then I start overthinking. How can I control this? What can I do? And then I get exhausted, basically. And I am dysregulated. I stop trusting. I forget that things are happening for me. I stop being present. I think that is one of the most important pieces. I dysregulate. I feel fear, anxiety. I feel that I am losing control and I am unsafe, and then the worst is going to happen to me. And then from that place, as you can imagine, it's very difficult to trust. It's very difficult to surrender. It's very difficult to connect with your intuition. I have a hard time connecting with my intuition when I am there, because I'm completely gone. I'm not really present. I'm just in that story that I'm making in my head of what's going to happen to me, and then kind of living that story, even though it hasn't happened yet. But I am feeding that, and that is the control loop, right? And that can happen when I think about, where am I going to live? I don't have a home. Oh, what am I going to do for work? I don't have enough income. What's going to happen with my partner? Are we going to be able to be well together, or are we going to separate? And then everything becomes an opportunity to step into that control loop. And then that creates more anxiety, more fear, more disconnection, more dysregulation. And from that place, it's very difficult to step into trust. It's very difficult to surrender. It's very difficult to connect with what excites me, and then take action from that place of higher power and excitement, rather than fear-based trying to control to survive. Very different energy. I don't know if you can sense those two different energies. And outside, nothing has changed. That's the funny part, right? Like, outside, nothing is happening. It's all my mind. It's triggering all those events. It's triggering the fear, it's triggering the anxiety, it's triggering the need for control. And it's interesting to be able to step out and then see the cycle, see the loop, and then see the impact that that is having. In my case, the impact that that has in my relationships with my wife, with my daughter, with the animals I'm caring for, with myself. And then when I get out in community with other people, how I feel, right, around those people. And it's very different when I am feeling inspired and excited than when I am feeling untrusting, dysregulated. It's a very different energy. And as you can imagine, entering the world and trying to attract possibilities in your life and change from this energy versus from this one, it's going to be very different. And from a quantum perspective, you are going to attract what you are in that moment, what you are embodying. And when I am embodying fear, when I am embodying worst case scenario, when I am embodying the energy of trying to control because I feel unsafe, I'm going to create very different opportunities for myself than when I am in the process of trusting, surrendering, doing my best, accepting what is, observing what is, and then from moment to moment, don't lose myself into worst case scenarios, into extremes, just going moment to moment, breathing, being present. So it's very, very important. And it's so easy, for me, it's so easy to just get lost in that because my mind, that's the tendency, that's the natural tendency. That's what I have done. That's what I have seen people do. That has been my experience for many, many, many years. So I think all of this is happening for me, excuse me, because I need to elevate from this. I want to change my story. I want to change how I approach the uncertainty. I want to step into the idea and possibility of, the worst case scenario can happen and the best case scenario can happen and anything in the middle can also happen. So I am not a victim of that. I can choose and I can trust and believe that things are going to keep happening for me. How do you do that step out? So Marina, that is a great question. How do you step out of that control loop? So there are so many different outs, but I will say that the most important piece is mindfulness, having any kind of practice where you can just disconnect from that. You can do that through self-care. You can do that through doing a breathing exercise, just the box breathing exercise, maybe inhaling for 4, maintaining for 4, exhaling for 4, maintaining for 4, and then you do that. You can do that through going for a walk in nature. You can do that by having a conversation with someone and being seen in that experience. And you can do that through tapping. You can tap and then tell yourself what's happening for you, and then just do something like, even though right now I am feeling completely unsafe, I choose to love and accept myself. Even though I don't have enough money to sustain myself right now, I choose to love and accept myself. And then you slowly calm yourself down. So it's finding ways that work for you to come back to presence, to come back to the present moment, the real present moment, not the one that you have created with your mind. And sometimes that loop, when you are in the loop, sometimes there is a momentum, and sometimes you may not be able to get out of it immediately. It takes practice to do that, right? But sometimes you understand that you are there, be compassionate with yourself, be patient, understand that, okay, I'm in the loop, I just need to take care of myself right now. And maybe it's going to take a few hours for me to get out of this. Or maybe it's going to take me a couple of days to get out of this. Also, focus your energy in what you are grateful for. Try to look at all the things in your life that you are grateful for in this present moment. Like for me, for example, when I was there yesterday and this morning, I was just coming back to, okay, I am grateful that I'm in a beautiful home. I am grateful that I'm surrounded by trees. I am grateful that I have a fireplace. I am grateful that there are 2 pets in here that they are so excited to see me every single day, no matter what. I am grateful that I have a partner that loves me and I have a daughter that is so beautiful to be with. I am grateful that we are living this adventure and we can travel and see different communities. And then as I keep doing these things, it really helps kind of, okay. So I hope that this helps, Marina. These are just some examples. You can find many other things. I am making sourdough bread, for example. And just doing that process is so fulfilling for me because I have to make the dough, I have to feed it, I have to wait for it to raise. When it raises, it's exciting. And then I have to stretch it and I have to let it rest. And I have to remember to go back to it. And then I have to roll it. And then I bake it. And then when it's baked, it smells beautiful and it's bread that I can eat. Just something so simple, right? But just find something that really makes you feel comfortable and calms you down. I think that's Jennifer says, I have extreme anxiety with fear of flying, limiting my work, my travel, apps experience. As I now avoid it completely. I used to fly frequently, but after rough flights, I can't imagine being able to do it. Yeah, Jennifer, thank you for sharing your situation, and I'm sorry that you are experiencing that. And I hope that you can find ways to maybe overcome that if that's what you want. But yeah, it makes sense, right? So sometimes you can pinpoint really well what the fear is, and sometimes the fear is a bit more general, more diffused, and you don't really know where it's coming from, but you can feel it in your body. So let's talk now about the quantum flow state, okay? Let's talk about the opposite. So we talked about being in this control loop. We talk about trusting, surrendering, and the lack of trust and the lack of surrendering, and what can happen when we spiral into these states of fear, wanting to control, basically the opposite of trusting and surrendering. But what happens when we can step into trusting and we can surrender? And then we step into this quantum flow. So how does that look like, and how do we get there, right? So the quantum flow happens when we are present. We are in this present moment. We are not lost in a story. We are not lost in something that may happen or not happen. We are here and now, okay? So we are fully present here. We are staying open to possibilities. So we are always connected with all the possibilities that are unfolding. And we understand that possibilities unfold moment to moment and they are not controllable. And we just have to pay attention to them, right? And then respond to them if we wish to. And then we are taking aligned action without gripping to an outcome. So we are taking inspired, excited action that feels natural, that it's an impulse that comes from inside of you and invites you to do something. And then you connect that with your intuition and all of a sudden you feel guided. And then there is something that, oh, I have to do this now. I don't know why, but it feels good. And then you do it. And then something else happens. And then something else happens. And then all of a sudden you step into this flow and you question after, wow, how did I get here? Like if I were to plan this, I wouldn't be able to have done it so well. And then that's what sometimes happens. We call it miracles. We call it, can't believe things work out that well, right? So that's what, because you stepped into the flow, into the quantum flow, and you were actually present and you were taking inspired action. So you are participating in life, but you are not forcing it. And then a helpful metaphor for you to understand how this looks like is it's surfing, right? Imagine that you're in the ocean and then you are learning how to surf, and then you get good enough to start surfing waves, and then so you are just waiting, waves keep coming at you, and then at some point you are gonna chase a wave, you're gonna start paddling there like crazy, you're gonna stand up, and then you're gonna start surfing the wave, right? So you are not controlling the wave, but you have learned how to be present with it. You have learned how to maneuver the surfboard, how to maintain the balance. And then the more you do that, the more playful it becomes and the less uncertain it is, because certainty is not necessary anymore because you are surrendering to the present moment, moment after moment after moment, and you are able to surf that way, the wave You don't have to control it. You don't have to know what's going to happen. So you are not fighting the wave anymore. You are just moving with it. So let's talk about some signs that you may be resisting the flow. Okay? So signs that we may be resisting that flow state that I was talking about, right? When everything feels effortless, when you are not lost in past or future, you are in the present moment. So you may be resisting the flow when you reply the same thoughts constantly. So in my experience the last couple of days, there are some racing thoughts that reoccur. In my case, for example, some of the ones that I can remember, oh my God, what's going to happen to you? You will have to do a job that you dislike for 40 hours a week, and then you are not going to have vacation enough to go and visit your family, and then your daughter will never see your parents again in Barcelona, and I won't be able to travel, and I will become a slave because I will need a place to live. And then that was a racing thought that it repeats. And when it comes, it really makes me feel unsafe. It really makes me feel crushed by life. I become such a victim of something so heavy. So that is a racing thought, right? That I reply. My mind replies because it's scared. You try to predict every outcome. So you try to control everything in your life because you do feel unsafe. You feel tightness or contraction in your body. So you have I do notice a lot of tension here on my shoulders and lower neck, for example. I also feel when I enter that race of thoughts, and I feel fear. I feel fear in my here on my solar plexus, like at the pit of my stomach. It feels kind of like I remember when I was a child sometimes, and I did something wrong, and I knew that I was going to be punished. And I remember the feeling of my stomach contracting and me kind of clenching like this. So it's a similar feeling. And then I feel my throat gets clogged, and then communicating what I need becomes very difficult. And then I notice that my tone of voice gets very soft. And then sometimes my partner can't hear me. And to me, it feels that I'm screaming. But she's like, Emilio, I cannot hear you. And that is me feeling so small, so crushed, that I feel unable to even talk sometimes. So yeah, tightness, contraction, anything that is preventing you from moving, from being yourself, from expressing fully who you are in the moment. Anything that's limiting that, it's part of this, right? You are blocking the flow. You are not in the flow state or resisting. And then you cannot accept uncertainty. So it's not, you just can't accept it because it's so uncertain, it's so scary. And you may delay decisions waiting for perfect clarity. 100%. Procrastination, right? I notice myself many times procrastinating things because I just feel it's not the right moment. What is the point of doing this? And I'm hoping for something to change so that things become perfect. But the perfect doesn't exist, or perfect is something that we manufacture from our logical mind. And sometimes life doesn't have to be perfect according to your mind. Life is going to be what it needs to be so that you can keep growing. And that's why accepting is so important. But many times we can't. Many times we are resisting that, right? Yeah, so those are some signs that you may be resisting. So feel free to share any other signs, any other ways that you notice yourself resisting to trusting, resisting to surrendering, if you want. So I identify with your story loop. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, you are welcome. Thank you, Leland, for your donation. I appreciate your support. Yeah, Marina says repeating experiences in different form. Yeah, repeating experiences in different form. that is something that I have worked with clients that have that tendency, and I notice myself having the same tendency, right? Um, Anytime I feel scared, uncertain, unsafe, doing something that I know how to do makes me feel well. And I remember I was helping a client one like many years ago, and then she had a hard time organizing her home, but she was really good at cleaning. So she always said, listen, anytime I try to organize my home, I end up cleaning my home. And I don't declutter and I don't organize the things I want to organize because that creates anxiety in me and I am afraid and I don't know how to really do it. But I do know how to clean, and when I clean, I feel really well. So that is a sign that was a really, what you are saying, Marina, that was an experience that she knew that will give her safety and will give her fulfillment. And I notice myself doing that too. Like anytime I'm trying to approach something that is uncertain or is new for me and is scary, I have a tendency to try and do something that I know how to do so that to soothe myself. And I think it's not bad to do that. It's just interesting to become aware of it. It's interesting to be conscious about it and to don't procrastinate things that you truly want to do, and to also don't negate yourself the soothing that those experiences may give you. And then it's kind of working out how can I soothe myself and also take action on what I truly want, and how can I learn how to do this differently. And I think that is the work, right? To keep showing up, to keep discovering ways of doing it. So here are some reflecting questions for you guys. Where am I gripping too tightly in my life right now? So where am I gripping or kind of like attaching myself so tightly in my life right now? What outcome am I trying to force? And what am I afraid will happen if I let go of control? So these are some good questions that will help you hopefully uncover a little bit of the reasons why, like, you may find yourself gripping or trying to control something or forcing, and what is the fear underneath that. So if you stop controlling, what can happen? What is your mind telling you is going to happen? Because that's what you are reacting to. Like I react when the loop cycle that I was talking about gets activated sometimes. What the fear that I have is that if I don't control this or do something, I'm gonna be homeless, or I'm gonna be a slave of doing something that I don't like because I have to pay bills and I won't be able to get out of it ever. That is the extreme case, right? That it's very unlikely to happen, but that is what my mind goes to. So basically, when I'm trying to control, when I'm racing thoughts, I am trying to avoid the pain of being there. So if I can challenge that story, if I can also connect with all the other possibilities, all of a sudden that reaction won't be as strong. And hopefully I can create a different possibility for myself. And that doesn't mean that I am negating that is an option, but I'm not ignoring all the other options either. So let's do like a practical trust practice, right? What will the steps look like for a practice of trust? And these are some steps, okay? So step one is awareness, being aware. Okay, notice when the mind moves into control mode. So you can pause and you can ask, am I acting from fear or am I acting from alignment? And this is a really good skill. This is a metacognition. This is an executive functioning skill that allows you to become the observer, right? This is what we are doing when we are doing any kind of mindfulness, any kind of meditation. We are trying to detach from what's happening and we are trying to become the consciousness that is observing what's happening. So when you can do that, all of a sudden you are disconnecting from the story. You are disconnecting from being that character in that story. And it's like you can visualize, imagine that your life, the story that's happening in your life, it's on a screen, on a TV, and imagine that you sit on a couch and you are watching that story from the distance. So you become the observer of that movie, of that story, right? And then from that place, you can notice more things. You can be present, you can be aware. And then you can then ask the question, am I acting from a place of being afraid and fear? Or am I acting from a place of excitement, alignment, inspiration? Something that I really, truly want to do. And it's not because I'm afraid of something, it's because I really want to do that. And then you can differentiate both energies very quickly. Step 2 is to return to the present moment. As I was talking, like it's always a moment to moment experience. From a quantum perspective, the only thing that really exists is the present moment. There is no past, there is no future. Everything is in the moment. So time is really an illusion from a quantum perspective. So if you can return to the present moment, that is the only thing that really exists. And that is where you can act. That is where you can be sensitive to what's happening. That is when you can use your intuition to guide you. But if you cannot be present, all of a sudden, if you don't have awareness and you are not able to be present in the present moment, it's very difficult to do these things. It's very difficult to trust and to surrender. So once you return to the present moment, you can ask, like, what is actually happening right now? And just look how different, right, that is, and what action feels aligned today. Not forever, just today. And as you can imagine, like if I go back to my racing thoughts of the worst case scenario of me being in a situation that I dislike, losing freedom, not having enough money, becoming a slave, just imagine how much emotion that is creating in my nervous system. And it's something that is not happening. But if I can come back to the present moment and I can connect to, I am in a beautiful home, I have food, I have water, I have people that love me, I have safety for the next month and a half. So all of a sudden, the sensation and the reaction is going to be very different. So returning to the present moment and then allowing the unknown to happen, right? You can say something like, life is always unfolding in ways we cannot predict. And trust allows us to participate in that unfolding instead of fighting it. So any kind of affirmation, any kind of reminder, anything that will help you connect to the idea that everything is happening for us. And in every situation that is happening, if we can maintain awareness, if we can remain present, we are going to be guided. We are going to receive signs. We are going to manage. We are going to be taken care of. And we're going to grow, we're going to learn, and we're going to be able to use that experience in our advantage. And nothing is permanent. One of the things that my mind tricks on me all the time is it's very extreme and it's very catastrophic. Because when I visualize myself in a situation that I dislike, my mind makes it look like it's going to be like that forever. And it's not changeable. And that is so untrue because from a quantum perspective, everything is changing every single moment. So how can I know how things are going to change? Like that is not for me to know. But my mind wants to play that story because that's what it was trained for. Prepare for the worst and then anything different will be better. And that is not what I want anymore in my life. And then trust and intuition, right? How does intuition fit into this? So when we are constantly controlling, we cannot hear intuition because we are completely closed to any kind of guidance. But when we are trusting, we are allowing intuition to come in. We are more creative and we are more open to new opportunities. to emerge. So there is another executive functioning skill that is called cognitive flexibility or adaptable thinking. And that is the skill that allows us to be flexible. Be flexible in the way that we look at the world. Be flexible in being able to put ourselves in different perspectives when we are looking at things. When we are relating with another person, we can put ourselves in their shoes, and we can put ourselves in our shoes, and we have flexibility in seeing the reality from different angles. We are not just very narrow focused, right? And what I notice when I am experiencing the racing thoughts that I was talking about is that cognitive flexibility is very little, almost non-existent in that moment, because I am so obsessed with one specific perspective that everything else disappears. And from a quantum perspective, it's really positive to be able to be open to possibilities, because everything can change moment to moment to moment. So yeah, I'm very important, right? Like often the next step becomes clear only after we release the need to know everything. So I can't tell you how many times I have embarked myself in a project that felt overwhelming, and my mind was trying to create a blueprint to map everything out before I got started to make it perfect. But then once I decided, like, no, I just want to get started with the next available step for me. Right now, the only thing I can see is this step. Everything else, I don't know yet. But that step feels good. So when I took action on that, then the next available step became clear for me. And then I took it. And then 2 more steps came out available. And then I will do the next one. And that's how I sense that I got it in a flow. And that's how I could notice, like, wow, things are unfolding now. I'm not controlling things, but I am taking action. I am surrendering to the process, but I don't have an expectation. And it's kind of like I was in a wave. I'm kind of observing, and I'm kind of surfing the wave, but I am not controlling it. So I'm curious to know if you guys have been in that flow state where you have noticed that sometimes time slows down, sometimes time flies, sometimes you end up in a place or you have done something or a situation has unfolded in a way that seems magical to you. People around you, they may say something like, wow, so lucky you are, or I can't believe that happened that way, or I don't know, things like that. Have you guys had any experience? Feel free to share in the chat if you have, because I would love to read it. And then we're almost at the end of the session. So the closing reflections about these topics. So I want you to ask yourself, like, where in your life is life asking you to trust more? Where in your life is life asking you to trust more? What control pattern are you ready to soften? If you trusted the unfolding process a little more, what might change? What will be different? Yeah, and that's how trust, surrender, intuition allows you to step into that quantum flow. So Denise says, I had that experience when I decided to move from Ontario to British Columbia. Ha! It's interesting, Denise, that you say that, because Canada, yeah, Denise, we lived in Kitchener-Waterloo for the last, since 2012, for the last 13 years. And last winter, we started traveling with our motorhome. And right now we are in British Columbia. We are on Vancouver Island. And we have been the winter house sitting. And now we have to make a choice, because we have house sitting until June. And we are trying to decide, where do we want to live? What do we want to do for work? Where? And and it feels so uncertain. And it's so interesting that you moved from Ontario to British Columbia. And I'm curious to know, where are you in British Columbia, if you want to share, and how was that transition for you? Was it difficult to make the decision and then everything kind of fall into place easily, or did you force that change? I'm just curious to know, because I know that that's not a coincidence that you are sharing that. Because part of me feels that I love the scenery here, but I am in a point where I don't know where home is for me right now anymore. Because my family is in Spain, Samantha's family is in Ontario, but we both don't feel like Ontario is our home. And we don't know if we want to be there permanently. The same way that we don't know if we want to be permanently in Spain. And the same way that I don't know if I want to be permanently in British Columbia, but I do like the scenery more. Denise says, oh my, I went to Wilfrid Laurier. That's funny, because we lived very, very close to that university in Waterloo. So interesting. Yeah, so I am in Kelowna. Yeah, Kelowna is a beautiful city. I have a good friend that lives there. And he went to visit also. He was living in Kitchener, Waterloo, and he went to visit Kelowna. And he fell in love. He loved it. And in a matter of 3 or 4 months, because when he came back, he said, I want to live there. And then he started looking for a job, and then he found a job. And then in 3 months, I think, he moved. And now he's living there full time. But I really admire and I'm jealous about his certainty, right? Because he said, that's my place. I want to live there. And then he knew. In my case, I don't know, because I have visited so many places that I don't have a place that it's calling me that way. That's why it's becoming very difficult for me to, okay, now you have to decide where you're going to establish yourself for the rest of your life or for the next 15 years. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a clear answer. So that's why it feels very, very uncertain. It's a long story, but everything conspired to assist me with this transition. That's amazing, Denise. And out of curiosity, would you say that when you say that everything conspired to assist you, would you say that assistance came after you stepped into taking that change, or will you say that started before you took action? I'm just curious to know if you took action first and then everything started unfolding, or if everything started unfolding and then you took action. Just curious. Yeah, leap and the next net will appear. Yeah, that's beautiful. A quote from Jay Burroughs. Leap and the net will appear. Yeah. Caroline says, I don't know where home is. My mother is English and was born and raised in Peru. My father was Swiss and born and raised in the United States. I grew up in Costa Rica and now live in California. Wow, my 2 daughters are in the US, but otherwise I have no family here. I have lived in Europe, Central America, New York, and now California. Yeah, wow, Caroline, that's a lot of places, right? And I'm curious to know if you want to share, Caroline, how does that make you feel? When you say, I don't know where home is, like, is that something positive? Is that something that feels lonely or sad? Like, I'm curious to know, like, how does that make you feel? I'm asking this because I'm very aware that we have a daughter, and sometimes I question, right? Like, I don't want to make her feel that she doesn't have a home either. That's why I feel a lot of pressure in deciding where I want to establish myself, where we as a family want to grow roots, because I would love to have stability so that she can have what I had. I had longtime friends. I had a home that I could call home, and it was always the same. And I have met people that didn't have that and they are thriving. And I have met people that didn't have that and they are kind of lost and they don't feel grounded anywhere. And it's not something that is helping them feel well. So I guess every person is different, but I'm just curious to know if you want to share how you feel about that. Yeah, aloha everyone and greetings from Switzerland. Amazing. Yeah, guys, so thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for exploring these topics that are so deep. I don't know if you have any questions before we end the session or anything else that you would like to share. I always find it interesting how things happen a specific way, and today part of me didn't want to show up for this call because it's like I don't want to talk about this. I am in the middle of not being able to do any of this. So who the heck am I to show up here and talk about trust and surrender when I'm struggling to do it? But I think the process is, I think life always puts us in situations where we can learn, where we can evolve. And I think that anytime we are leaping, as you were saying, the quote like, leap and the net will appear. Every time that we are stepping into the unknown, we are going to face resistance, belief systems, etc. And I think they are all beautiful opportunities to help us keep experiencing, keep growing, keep becoming aware. And sometimes I believe that this is energy that it's from our ancestors, things that were unfinished from them. And now we are here on earth trying to finish the circle, try to discover a different way to relate, and then expanding and growing. So that's why I showed up. I didn't cancel the session because I know that when something doesn't feel comfortable, there is a lot to learn from it. So yeah, thank you. This session has helped me so much. You are welcome. Denise says, I decided to take the next step and try it out for a few months. Yeah, sorry, I lost your message. Yeah, for a few months to see how it will go. My sister, husband, and niece moved here the year earlier, and it helped to just try it out. Amazing. So that's nice that you had that opportunity to test it, right? I am similar to Caroline, just different countries. Definitely, I feel like nowhere is home. Maybe my birth country, but that's so far removed. Now it's not realistic. Yeah, Sandy, I hear you. Marina says, thank you, very helpful. I really enjoyed this session. You are welcome. Beautiful session, much needed during this time. Thank you, Heather. Caroline says, I can feel lonely, especially around the holidays. I have come to find peace with it as having family nearby isn't really possible. Yeah, so no matter where I live, some family members will be far away. También viví en Sevilla. Amazing, Caroline. Denise says, then everything started falling into place, starting with a decision with this not easy thing with such big decisions, but it worked. Then people and situations opened up. Yeah, beautiful, Denise. Thank you for sharing. I feel better about handling my uncertainty moment by moment. Yeah, Hali, I step into that sometimes and it helps me relax and understand that nothing is permanent, right? And sometimes my anxiety gets stuck into the idea that whatever is happening is gonna be forever and you won't be able to change it. And it's like, no, that is not true. It really helps. So Devika says, I was born and raised in Fiji, lived in New Zealand, and now in Melbourne. I view myself as a visitor in this world as I resonate to Maori world view of we are custodian of the land. Moving countries has helped me be detached and appreciate life and live in the present moment. Amazing. Yeah. Home is where the heart is. Follow your heart. Yeah, absolutely, Denise. Thank you so much. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your support and for your presence. And I hope to see you next week if you can make it. And if this session helped you and you can support me with a donation, that will be amazing. I will receive it with gratitude. And I hope that you can step into trust. I hope that you can surrender and become aware of the areas of your life where maybe you need to soften, the same way that I share some of the areas in my life that I am working through now, and just keep going in the journey of life. And it was really helpful for me to talk about this, to be seen in this experience, and to also read some of your experiences. So thank you so much for sharing and for being vulnerable. Yeah, there is only now, and presence in this moment allows for peaceful steps. Best of luck. Thank you so much, Denise. Thank you so much, Heather, for your donation. Thank you for the reminder, Emilio. You are welcome, Alessi. Well, have a beautiful weekend, guys, and I hope to see you next week if you can make it, okay? Adios.